It's honestly kind of hard to criticize a free to play game with as much content as Lost Ark has, but I've got to admit, while the game has some amazing things going for it, the experience thus far, which for me is about 20 hours or so, sometimes playing with my friends, sometimes playing solo, sometimes just, deep diving the lore, any of those combinations of things. About 20 hours so far, I gotta say my experience has felt somewhat hollow. It's gorgeous. I don't think, I mean, I'm showing you 99% of what you're gonna be doing, and that's running around in the world or in dungeons, absolutely eviscerating everything you come across with a litany of skills and classes that are insanely unique and so much fun to play in terms of the abilities you'll be doing, the ragdoll physics you'll see, the lighting effects, the particle effects, the feeling that you are the definitive hero. You're going to get that constantly through this game. But why are you doing what you're doing? What benefits do you gain? What bonuses? What makes you want to continue to play? That's where I feel this experience turns very, very hollow very quickly. And I believe the gameplay footage you're seeing here is from the fourth biome, essentially. There's a lot of continents, a lot of content. They all play identically. You basically are walking into a linear dungeon, for lack of a better word. This is an on rails action RPG. The days of you playing something like Diablo and it being procedurally generated in a wide open game area where you don't really know what's pack of enemies you're going to find around the corner, that doesn't exist here. This is incredibly handholdy, basically always walking forward, very, very infrequently having to check back in with the original quest giver. Typically, the quest giver will tell you to turn in the quest to somebody else farther down the road. And this proceeds zone after zone after zone. Sometimes there are dungeons, sometimes there is like a big dungeon at the end. Short of that, this is exactly how you're going to play. And you see that I'm really just kind of blowing through the dialogue because it's so trivial and meaningless, and it's filled with so much filler and helpless NPCs. You never really get to know anything about them because they're only around for mere moments. You're instantly moving on to the next thing, killing what you need to do, and there's really no threat in this game at all because you're so powerful and you have so many abilities to decimate enemies. Whether you just want to straight up auto attack or use, in this case, I'm playing as a female gunslinger. That's different than the male version. They have different classes, but the female has 3 different types of abilities. I have different weapons I could select from. I have these 2 pistols, which is kind of my primary. That's where I have 8 skills. I have a shotgun that has 2 different skills. And then I have this long kind of almost sniper rifle type thing that also has 2 skills. You could easily beat the game auto attacking with any of those 3 weapons. You're speeding up the time, though, obviously, because you're using your abilities, but there's never a threat. You'll see my health very rarely drops. If it does, you have hundreds and hundreds of potions at your disposal. And if you're playing with friends, it's just an overwhelming overload of things to do. There's so much stuff happening in the screen, it makes you just almost gives you a headache because it's just an overwhelming, numbers are flying everywhere, explosions, every character has their own unique animations and abilities and synergies, and it's hard to visually process what's going on, I think. And that, I think, is where this game really kind of falls apart. And, I was thinking about it last night, playing with my friends. And listen, everything's better with your friends. So don't sit here and say, oh, it's whatever. It's a free-to-play game. It costs me nothing. I'm sitting here playing with my friends, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, what is the drive to get here? What's the next thing I get? Well, in most of these games, it's gear. So you will be able to customize your character and get different weapons and armor pieces that change how you do things. Some of them have synergies that are related to how fast you recover an ability or how powerful an ability is. Some of them are just straight damage or boost numbers that you just don't see in the background. That doesn't matter. You know, oh, your DPS went from 9 to 10. It's really irrelevant for you in terms of you're killing things so fast that you're never going to notice it. And some of it obviously is just the standard, you know, gating that all games have to basically say, look, you have to have so much damage in order to progress. So we're going to kind of force you to go through some of these mundane quests to kind of get there. But the story, the large story of what is the Lost Ark and how do you find it and who are the key players, which is really just kind of one villain right now. That's about it. You don't really get that cast of characters that you relate to, and I just can't help but feel it's a very shallow experience. And I'm honestly so happy that it's doing so well. It's the second most played game ever on Steam with over 1 million concurrent users now, and the sky seems to be the limit. People who are doing streams and stuff, it's just blowing up in content. There's so much hype and excitement around this. And I think when you look at this, what I'm showing on the screen, it's like, wow, that's really cool. Like, boy, Diablo 2 and Diablo 3, sure did not look like this. Torchlight sure does not look like this. But you know what? This is fun. It's explosive. It's violent. It's beautiful. It's fun to play. But I can't help but feel the experience is going to just wither soon because after a while, there's just not much content there. And not to say content, there's a lot of content, meaningful content, things that you want to like, oh, I'm invested. I want to know what happens. And maybe I'm one of the few people in the world that felt this way. But, you know, when I was playing through World of Warcraft, which this game leans heavily on in the MMO portion of it, I was genuinely invested with what was going on with the characters and the overall story arcs. And characters like Sylvanas and Arthas and Thrall were quote unquote household names to me. And I was genuinely invested, big, deep cinematics and story arcs. I got to know them as characters and quest with them for years and years and build up their tale. And that was awesome. Here, you are just basically meeting a bunch of nobodies that ask you to do meaningless things that ultimately resolve in you killing more things. And that's it. And I guess if you're looking for that experience, then you're probably going to love this game. And I'm guessing that's why so many people enjoy it. Because it is fun to go around and just slam stuff, but I feel like it's just not going to last. Now, there's some really cool things that they have done as well, and you've seen me highlight a lot of the skills here, but one of the really fun things about this game is a lot of skills are actually handled very differently. I have skills that are your just traditional point and click. I have skills that I have to hold and charge up. I have skills that are more of like a skill shot where they're, you know, like an AoE, and I determine where that AoE is. And that's just for this particular class. As playing as a paladin, it's very different than this. You're much more front line, using different like holy auras and everything to kind of buff everybody around you. And that plays very differently. This is more of like a ranged type of character. But there are so many character classes right now, and more are coming. You'll find something you like. I am 100% confident you will find something you like. And what I really enjoy about this game is, and I'm playing with a keyboard and a mouse for this gameplay session, but you can absolutely use a keyboard. You can actually use an Xbox controller to control it. So it's a direct one-to-one mapping. Your left analog stick moves your character just like in Diablo 3, and your skills and everything are handled with your right thumbstick. It's a little cumbersome to navigate some of the menuing options because I'm not going to get into all of them, but there are a list of there's so much bloat in this game. It's hard to kind of navigate almost. But you can use the analog stick if you want to, which basically acts as a mouse. So if you truly are a keyboard person, which I like to be, you're going to have fun with this. I'm sorry, a controller person like me, you're going to have fun with this. So you can lean back in your chair and have a good time. And that's typically how I play more melee classes, because you're just up front and swinging attacks. With a ranged class and kind of having to aim a little bit and get a little bit more precision shots or line up a lot of enemies for a single shot, a little different story. But that does exist. In terms of what you're going to be doing in terms of outside of combat, how you're basically progressing, you have your standard gear. You have you're going to find things that do, like I said, a little bit better damage here and there. You're going to get those from dungeons. The gear is just for you. There's really no trading in this game. So the gear you find will always be useful for your character, which is nice. I can't tell you the number of times in Diablo I'd kill a boss and he would drop a bow for a character that I was using as a sword. I was like, well, this is cool, but not for me. Obviously, you're going to make somebody's day, not yours. You're always going to get stuff that is for you. And it's gated in such a way that as you progress through it, it will always, everybody will get that same type of item. Like, oh, this boss is guaranteed to drop a level 90 sword or a level 90 weapon, whether it's a sword or a gun or some other type of weapon. Well, that determines the class you're playing, but everybody's going to get something. There's no free-for-all loot. Everything you see on the screen is yours. You don't have to worry about running over and trying to get the final hit in to click on it before your buddies do. So the itemized loot is very nice. The difficulty does stack with more players, but the loot doesn't necessarily stack with more players. So it's just kind of one of those things. If you enjoy playing with others, you can, but don't feel like you're missing out if you want to play this solo, because you can. The other thing is this game features just so many collectibles and side quests and things to do. It's mind-boggling. It's all free to play. And if I could give this game any single endorsement, outside of just how beautiful it is and how just insanely beautiful the combat is and how much fun it is to just go nuts with your abilities, it's that there's seemingly no gating on the free-to-play content. There's really no predatory microtransactions. It's not like, oh, if you want more inventory space, spend $1, or oh, if you want to get 2 mounts, you need to buy the gold edition of the game. None of that exists in this world, which is cool. I really like that. And, you know, the only thing I've seen that you may want to consider buying is a time-saving thing for these feathers, these phoenix plumes that when you die, you can resurrect on the spot as opposed to at the beginning of a dungeon. That's about it. I haven't seen anything else that feels like, oh, okay, thanks for playing, your time's up, give us money. So, yes, there is a very robust store here where you can buy tons and tons of cosmetic items and things like that, but I don't think you need it. That's why I say, you know, at the beginning of this video, it's honestly kind of hard to criticize this game because it gives you so much. And if you don't want it, you don't have to use it. But what I mean by that is all of these side quests, you could just skip and do the golden path. And you'll be just fine going into the next area. You'll have plenty. The game will basically, I don't want to say it levels with you, but in a sense, you're going to be fine. You're going to get the drops you need to proceed. Since the drops seem to be very regulated, at the end of the game dungeon will guarantee you're going to get whatever you need to continue on to the next zone. That may change later on. I haven't seen it yet. Like I said, this is like zone 4 or 5 right now. Maybe later on it does hit a grinding paywall, but I have friends that are well farther ahead of me, and from what they have told me, it's the same. So a lot of this optional stuff, collecting hidden treasures on the map, doing the side quests, collecting different types of mounts or animals or cosmetics, it all seems very optional. Sometimes I could say that's honestly a good thing for the MMO side of things. World of Warcraft, I spent hundreds of hours fishing to get different names so I could be like Master Angler, or going to collect mounts, or exploring different parts of the world. Totally optional stuff. The core game was there if you wanted it. That's true too here. There's different sorts of quests that you could take on, the more hand-holding type things to really, you know, unlock more content that's cosmetic if you want it. And if you don't, then just don't do it. Point, click, and just drool, because just basically face roll on your keyboard and you'll win. This game almost plays itself at times. It's so simple. Now, I will admit that later on in some of the dungeons, the game does offer, and you just saw me do it there, you do have this ability to kind of dodge out of the way. Some of the harder enemies do have multiple phases and require a little bit more than just standing there and clicking. You're going to be dodging very telegraphed moves, standing in certain areas, you know, the very basic mechanics of how to fight. And I hope, and I don't know this, and if I do get farther along in this game, I will update, but I do hope that, you know, that does continue as you get harder, and it makes it more fun, because you think of like Destiny, for example. Now that was an incredibly complex system, but the way you had to defeat bosses wasn't just shoot at them. It was multiple phases and teams breaking up and doing different things and working together. Here it's basically just shooting, with the exception of the bosses where every so often, bad boss man shoots poop, jump out of poop, okay, continue shooting. Short of that, though, it's a lot of the same. And honestly, I guess that's okay. I'm not looking for something that's like hard, but there's not much of a challenge here. And everybody I'm talking to is soloing. We'll be in a 4-man group. Everybody's off doing their own thing, and everybody's just seemingly having fun, just on their own. We're all talking together. It is very hard to get somebody to dial into where you're at because there's no summoning per se. You can't go to a dungeon until you've completed the main quest of that area. So if your buddies have been playing for 10, 15 hours and you want to jump in, well, unfortunately, they're going to have to come back to you and wait for you to finish. They can't just teleport you. So there's no, like I think back like Warcraft again, where it's like, hey, we're going to get your new character up to speed. We're going to run a couple dungeons and jump right into the new stuff with us. It doesn't work that way here. Everything is very guided. You have to complete zone 1 before zone 2, zone 2 before zone 3, etc. And you're basically going to go through the same monotonous quest lines as everyone else in order to get access to those dungeons. If you went straight to the 3rd area dungeon on your horse, for example, it wouldn't let you in. You would have to basically go through the motions of completing everything up to that point. So I think that's where I struggle a little bit, and I feel like this game is really more designed for single player in that sense. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of systems that are great in place in terms of basically hanging out in town and doing like a looking for group, or even like the PvP stuff. It's not as intuitive as it should be. And you could see and I didn't click on half of this stuff, but you could see all of the icons across the top left of my screen, the top right of my screen, the bottom right of my screen. There's menus of submenus of submenus. Lots of ways to get lost in menus and questing and finding out different things you have to collect and do and see and gauge. It can be overwhelming for some, but if you're looking for just mindless fun and you just want to just pick a character and basically be given the tools to be just instantly a badass, play this game. It's free. Install it. Go through the initial quest zone, level up, just do the main quest line, forget everything else, ride your horse through every pack of enemies you see, do the golden quest. You'll upgrade just fine. You'll be able to put in skill points, customize your abilities, make the ultimate warrior, even though you were probably already the ultimate warrior when you started at level 10. But it's there if you want it. Short of that, is this game going to have lasting appeal? For me personally, no. I think there are other richer, deeper experiences with better lore building, more risk reward, more of a challenge, more fun. This is just kind of a mindless kind of click through adventure. I know it's been out for a while too. Clearly it has staying power. I mean, it's new here to America, but it's been, much more. It's been out in other countries. I know Russia's had this game for years and years and years, and we're finally just getting a chance to see it. But looking at all this content, I don't think I'll see the end of it. I think I'll peter out well before then. But that's my thoughts on Lost Ark. I hope you guys found this video informative, maybe a slightly different take than what a lot of everybody else has been saying about it. But that'll do it for me. Leave some comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this experience. And that's it for me. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.